Consider supporting Sonicguru Productions on Patreon for just $1 a month. Link below in the description.
Moving on to the final thing, which is our Patreon poll. And the items were video game store and stories. I cannot store stories. It's kind of a tongue twister. Basically, anything funny happened when you went to a game store, or any funny things, any personal experiences.
Yeah. But go on.
Our first game and console, which I've mentioned several times, but I haven't heard yours. But the one that won out was good games we hate. Video games that are...
Who sent this? Do we know who sent this to us?
Sorry?
Who sent this? Who was the person who voted, or, who was... Sorry,
I don't know. I just think of certain subjects that people have asked in the past, and I just basically just put them on there. But good games we hate. Basically, games that have got like 10 out of 10s, 9 out of 10s, games with gold awards, sell great, but you just can't fucking stand them.
Yeah, I like this. I like it. It's a good follow-up from our previous Guilty Pleasure ones.
Yeah, it's like the opposite side of a coin, really.
Exactly. I've got to admit, I've struggled a little bit with this because there's plenty of games I don't care for, but I don't hate. I mean, hate something...
One thing I don't care for, it's not like a game I hate, because I've tried this, but I just can't get into it. Actually, two of them now, I recall. First of all is StarCraft, or this real-time strategy in general. I just can't get into it. My brothers can. They can enjoy the crap out of it, but I'm just like, I don't get it. I don't get the appeal. I don't get the appeal of just basically managing my resources and just building stuff and just watching all these characters and tanks.
Saying, go over here, do this, build these things, now get more resources.
Yeah, and I don't get it. And that expands to Command and Conquer. Remember, one of them I tried frequently to try and enjoy, because my brother played it, was June on PS1. I tried, like, certain games have RTS elements. Like, I tried Brutal Legend. I have no idea where the fuck I'm going in that game. I have to retry it, play from the beginning, because the open world is great and all, but where the fuck do I go?
Yeah, that was a bit of a mishmash of some of the ideas in one pot.
Yeah, and Star Fox Command on DS had an RTS element where you had to drag these ships around. So, a slight introduction. I mean, even Halo Wars, which is the most baby's first RTS, I couldn't get into. But speaking of Star Fox, that's one thing I hate. I fucking hate Zero.
Yeah,
I hate Star
Fox.
That's
the question.
Zero.
Could we count Stuff as a good game, because it's kind of got this reputation of just being a massive disappointment?
I don't know. It's still revered as a good game by people. It's sold well. Even some people say it's a really good game. But I think, I don't think that's that thing about it. I don't think Star Fox Zero does really count. It's like, it's a Nintendo property. It has to be good. It's like, it really isn't. Yeah,
well, considering that it was, I know some people basically, it felt like just a remake of the N64 game, and B, it was very much made on the Wii U's second screen business.
Yeah, if they ever port that game, please get rid of the fucking thing. Get no motion controls. It shouldn't be motion control exclusive. And apparently, I heard that the only time they actually release a new Star Fox game is when they can think of a new gimmick or something to actually push the concept forward. That's why Adventures was what it was, and why Assault had third-person shooter, why Command had touchscreen only with RTS, and why Zero has the fucking gyroscope aiming.
I mean, hell, put it this way, we got the actual Star Fox 2 only because they decided, we're doing a mini version of one of our consoles, let's just shove that in there as a thing.
Yeah. I mean, why else would you fucking buy it? Considering it's also on the, I think it's on the Nintendo Switch NES SNES library.
Okay.
I think it is. Let me double check.
Right.
Look at the list I wrote down. I think the Sims I can't stand.
My sister played a lot of The Sims, which is, well, that's the thing. You either just don't get it or you're just obsessed with it.
Pretty much. But Wii Music was a fucking shit game.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's like, it was a game they demonstrated a lot, and then it's just like no one cared with it in the end.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at all the list now. Basically, these games are actually not that good, but there's one game that was really, really good, and I can't stand playing it, is the Elder Scrolls,
Oh,
specifically Oblivion.
uh,
Skyrim, I have to give a second chance because it's more refined compared to what Oblivion and Morrowind were.
hmm,
But I tried Oblivion and I could not stand it. The
yeah.
combat I could not understand. The dialogue boxes just like so. It's like kind of basic but complicated at the same time.
That's
It's been a while since I played it because I refuse to fucking touch it again.
It's one of those games that just burns you off completely.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm not too sure whether or not it's just I don't like the fantasy concept because I'm mostly more to sci-fi.
Hmm,
Because I will pick up and play the entirety of Fallout 3 before I even touch Oblivion.
right.
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure why. I think it might be the sci-fi aspect. I think it might be the fact that you use a gun rather than a sword and sorcery. Even though
Yeah,
you can't,
you can
even
play
though in Fallout 4, majority of the time I was using a freaking enchanted poison-tipped sword.
Okay.
It was a rare find. It's just like I'm not fucking having this. Can't remember what it's called though. You have to find it, and basically it gives a poison condition to the enemies you hit with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Something about Oblivion, I just could not stand playing it. It's just like I'm trying to force myself to play it. It's like it's not like Resident Evil 6 forced myself to play. I forced myself to play through that. I
Yeah.
felt like I was dying playing that.
Hell, I think most people, I've heard people who admit the saying it's a good game, just not a good Resident Evil game. That tends to be the thing with that.
It pretty much has good ideas. It's not. It's like with Sonic Forces. It's not a terrible game. It's just parts of it just don't make sense or don't add up compared to what came.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like they just figured it out. Really, that was the main issue.
Yeah, and if I mention Oblivion or Skyrim or basically anything by Bethesda is not a pretty competent game either. It's just basically it's got the same engine, but we've managed to make it better, and now still got bugs in it we could have fixed, but some bugs actually break the freaking game.
We'll put it this way:
there's a bug in this game. Great, patched it. The dragons are flying backwards.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's Game of the Year by literally still having all that crap in it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to admit, I struggled to try and think of games that I generally hated playing, particularly that I considered good games. And I have thought of a few. One of them I'll mention is Banjo-Tooie. Now, I probably said this in the past, but
you're going to get crucified.
Yeah, well, Banjo-Tooie, here's the thing. I got Banjo-Tooie because the only reason I tried to get Banjo 1 on the Xbox Live, but for some reason it wouldn't download, so I ended up doing a demo of 2 instead, played the first, opening section of it, and I was having a lot of fun. I was like, oh, run here, do this, get, jiggies, blah, 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 all that good stuff. It's like, okay, I'll play the game. And pretty much the moment I bought the damn thing, it just went downhill from there, because the more I played of it, the more angry, the more frustrated, the more tired I just got doing that sorting game. Because it gets to a point where you go to an area, it'll show you what you need to do, but then it will say, you can't do this because you haven't got this ability, so now you have to walk all the way back, go to another world, do another task to do that thing before you finish that thing. And I'll say this as someone who has a bit of a problem with OCD, that will drive a man insane. And considering also the fact that those levels are huge, like technically the hub worlds in them are massive, like you're trotting along like hell in that game, so it does become a tiresome fight where you have to go from one thing to another to get this thing to do that thing. And it's just like I said, I just got so generally angry with it. In fact, I got right up to the point where I beaten the Gruntilda quiz thing, and the game stopped me because I didn't get enough jiggies to go and beat the boss. And I just said, no, that's it, sod it. So that totally burnt me off, that game, that one. That just really generally annoyed me. And I know that some people like it. Some people probably like Tooie. I know they like that and the first Banjo games. I'm probably going to piss them off more. I was like, I'd rather play Nuts and Bolts. I generally like Nuts and Bolts as a game. At least in that game, you got a fucking vehicle so you can get around places quicker.
I've just thought of 2 more. One of which I know it's sold well to get a sequel. Is Epic Mickey. And God forbid you play that game because you will throw the controller at that wall.
Yeah,
because you talk about going back and forth. In Epic Mickey, you go back and forth so fucking often.
Oh dear.
There is so much fetch quest in that game. The game design is just abhorrent. That good word? I'm not too sure. It is so annoying to go back and forth saying, "Oh, get to this person, no, this person has this. Get it for that person, or this person needs to go and do all this. It's like, can't you just fucking give me? I'll take your pants off to grab the fucking item.
Exactly. I will walk around with my trousers down for God's sakes if it means I don't have to go back another second.
It's so monotonous. It really is. And the combat is pretty decent. The actual ideas of the create and destroy is pretty good.
Yeah, which
And
effectively isn't you phasing objects in now. I mean, similar to what in Crash 4, that you can sort of, ideally in that game, it's more about the certain things you can bring in and take out.
yeah, and the whole gloomy, oh, this is classic and forgotten stuff. It works. It really works. It's interesting. But it only applies to those who actually are interested in Disney's history, or basically anyone who wants to see who are big fans of Disney in general.
Yeah, I mean, the irony, it's the game that helped reintroduce Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, which was one of Disney's original creation that was lost for years and then brought back. And since then, he's never reappeared in anything else. He's in the sequel, Power of Two, but that's it. I think
which, despite being on multiple consoles, sold worse.
Yeah, apparently that's the weird thing. I mean, 2 was on everything, but yeah, no one really cared about the sequel.
Yeah, and another one which we discussed about 2 to 3 years ago now. A lot of people still like this game, and I don't know why. Is Crash Twinsanity?
Yeah, that's a Crash Twinsanity. Again, I don't know because weirdly enough, when that came out, people hated it. I remember all the press at the time thought it was terrible, and then it sort of becomes, and now years later, it's now become the sort of underrated, cult classic for many people.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's got some good ideas. It's really funny. Yeah, it's funny. The writing's actually really humorous. And graphically, it's pretty impressive. Very, like, squash and stretch were used. Cortex has never looked any better or sounded better because this is Lex Lang's first game.
Yeah, this is basically where Cortex went camp. I mean, properly camp. And go and search an interview with Lex Lang about how he did Cortex for that game. It's pretty damn funny.
And there's some interesting gameplay styles, but it's just it drags on. It's like, what we're doing now? We're doing a robot. What we're doing now? We're doing the escort quest. What we're doing now? Well, now we're just running around and collecting stuff. You want some gems? Here's some gems.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the thing is that it tries to take the base Crash formula, run, jump, spin, collect items, and tries to put it more in a narrative context. You go from one thing to another. And the stuff with Crash is good, and that's well done, but then they try a couple of things like a ball mechanic that only comes up near the end of the game. You get to play as Cortex, but it's kind of undeveloped, and then Nina, which is kind of fun, but a bit finicky. So, like, it's got all these ideas, and again, the game was going to be more, but just cut down for time, and you can definitely see it just feels like this needed more time in the oven.
Yeah, I want to mention how broken it is.
Yeah, it's a very broken game. I mean, to be fair, you can play it from beginning to end more or less okay, but there are places where you could just break it entirely if you go looking for it.
Yeah, and not to mention the final boss is broken as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was something I remember getting very angry at.
It's just, it's not to me, it's just not an enjoyable game. It really isn't.
Yeah. Anyway, I've got 2 other games that I should mention. One of them is Lego Star Wars 2. Now, we've kind of talked about
confuses me because Lego Star Wars is a really good game, especially get a complete saga.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Considering from Lego Star Wars 2 onwards, it was pretty much it's the same game, just slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, that's the weird thing, because Lego Star Wars 2 is one of those games that everything it had was ideally what I wanted the sequel to be, that it's bigger, it's got more characters, it's got different abilities, you can use vehicles and different set pieces and stuff. It's everything that, and yet somehow I don't really like them. Like, the first game for what it is, it's a very basic, sort of run around, collect items, beat up a few things, and slight platforming stuff. It's sure, it's consistent with what it has. Some of the mechanics are not that fully figured out, but for the most part, it all works and it's nice. I mean, Lego Star Wars 2, I would say that's the game where the trademark humor particularly really kicked off, particularly in the cutscenes where they tried more of this, I would say more like Airplane, Naked Gun style humor, where they're just starting to take scenes from the films and just start putting in loads of silly jokes in. So yeah, that's a game one thing I like about that. But playing it from beginning to end, I just don't find it as fun. It feels a bit slower. The levels drag on. Particularly even like using the Force, like because the Jedi's able to pick up items and build stuff in the first game, you could do them here, then the regular characters do it, but they're so goddamn slow at it. I remember how many times I had to try and build whatever it was. And I just want to use a Jedi just to get it done with.
Ugh.
And like I said, just all the other mechanics, like the shooting things a bit off. There's slight kind of combat-y, knuckle facing, but they're just really loose. And like I said, it annoys me because it's a game I want to like, but every time I've gone back to it, I can't. I just know.
And what was the other one?
Oh, the other one is the ever new series of the new Super Mario Brothers games.
Oh fuck yeah!
Yeah, oh god. And again,
the first one on DS, that was actually surprisingly fun. It felt very unique. It's classic but new. It's a title.
Well, put it this way: I remember years ago, back when Screw Attack was a thing, one of the games they would love to see a sequel of was Super Mario Bros. 3 2. Essentially, they just said, just make a new version of that, which they did. The only problem is they couldn't stop making that over and over again.
Yeah, Mario World I was still a fan because that was actually had enough unique ideas to stand up on its own. New Super Mario Bros. Wii, Christ, that is boring.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's be fair, like, how many did they end to do? There was the DS one, the Wii one, then the sequel to the DS one and the Wii, am I right?
New Super Mario Bros., New Super Mario Bros. Wii, New Super Mario Bros. U, New Super Mario Bros. 2, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe. And there's also the spin-off,
well?
New Super Luigi U.
Oh, God.
Which is a spin-off to the Wii U one.
Right.
So, yeah, technically, there's only 4 games in the series. 6 if you count the deluxe version and the Luigi spin-off.
Yeah, God Almighty. And like I said, if you play them,
again, I've also stressed I've only played the first 2, the DS and the Wii. And even if the Wii one can't sell me, why the hell would I want to get deluxe?
Yeah. And again, they are okay games. I mean, I remember playing one of the.
Again, they're structurally sound games.
Yeah, they're structurally sound games by all accounts, but the fact that they really are just the same selling game they'd resold and repackaged over and over again for what felt like years. I mean, they all kind of came out like almost a year, either a year or a year after each other back then.
I think so. I think the Wii one was like 2 years after the. DS came out in 2006, and the Wii one came out in 2009.
Right.
U came out. 2 came out in 2010, 2011 because it was like so shortly after the 3DS launch. And the Wii U version was a year after that.
Yeah, I think one thing that really annoyed me about the game was the ubiquity of just how often they would keep I did see a lot of advertising for the game for years to come, and it just they just kept reselling it again and again and again, and it's just like, oh my god, it's just wallowing in its nostalgia. I mean, we argue about Sonic doing this, like every main Sonic game has that Green Hill Zone now to death, which we're getting bored of, but those games, it's like they really don't go anywhere. It's just literally the same old Mario stuff from beginning to end until you literally want to pull your eyeballs out.
Well, at least 3D World was pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way, I think the weird thing is in between Galaxy 1 and 2 and then subsequently Odyssey, it's like unless there's a big, huge new entry in the series, it's like Mario tends to have its foot in the nostalgia thing way more permanently than Sonic does.
Yeah, like I said in the nostalgia video, at least the 3D Mario outings are at least distinguishable.
Yeah, they're the ones that actually decide we're going to put him in new places that isn't just Mushroom Green Hill, Mushroom Zone, Princess Peach Castle, and Lava Zone to death.
Grasslands Desert,
Desert,
Giant actual boss.
Greenland, Grassland, Iceland, Lava as a boss fight.
We're gonna get crucified for doing that. But there was a game. Those are all good games. We're not denying that they're good games. It's just we can't fucking stand them.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's the thing about opinions as well. It's like we can have an opinion on something. It's like if you like Oblivion, good for you. I can't stand it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, as we said, these are by all accounts good games. By all accounts, they're fun to play, but we just don't really give a shit, really. We can't stand the ubiquity of them, I guess.
Pretty much. I mean, it's also Call of Duty, but again, that's just a big punching bag.
Yeah, but that's the easy card. In fact, I'll end with this actually. I mean, slightly what you said earlier about game stories, game store stories. In fact, I remember going into game years ago when Destiny was just started to come out. And I remember seeing all the paraphernalia advertised, whatever. And I remember talking to one of the staff ladies, and just chatting. It's like, oh, you're interested in Destiny? It's like, no, it's not my thing, whatever. But then I asked her, what if it fails? It's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, could it all go wrong? It's like, no, I don't think so. It's got a multiplayer beta up that's doing good. Paul McCartney's wrote a song apparently for it, and they had like over $1 million in advertisement. But I still said, yeah, but it still could go wrong. I mean, this can all still crash in itself. And it's particularly odd how just a year after Destiny came out, it got such a thwacking by the gaming community, which now it's kind of settled back up. Like it's now at a point now where it isn't. I think people were expecting it to be the great successor to Halo, when in reality it's just its own thing, and it's now settled into its own groove. But
especially when Destiny 2 is basically a free-to-play game now.
Yeah, exactly. So it is odd. I mean, that's why I always remember, when I think that's my first lesson of big AAA games is like basically no matter how much hype and whatever, there's always that doubting thing of this could all go horribly wrong, and I don't really want to see the bad side of it, ideally.
No.